Hello everyone, uh, it's Kazgren, hitting you with some, diverse content. Today I'm doing a simple platformer tutorial. This is gonna be just a very simple tutorial on, how you can make a platform game, much like Purple or Rabbit Season. And it's actually not as hard as you might think. So, let's get started. Um, I like to keep my window size around like 800 by 800. That's a complete lie. None of my games have ever had 800 by 800 size, but shh, let's roll with it. So, if you're new to Clickteam Fusion, this might be a pretty good tutorial to start you off. I started off with Five Nights at Freddy's, and that I got pretty confused pretty fast. So, I'm gonna go over some of the basics, keybinds and everything here. Every time I do a keybind, I'm gonna be teaching you and making sure you understand what I did. So, um, if you have a mouse, which is much recommended, I would recommend you have a mouse for this. If you press Alt and scroll, then you'll be able to zoom in and out of your frame. You can middle click with your mouse and drag around. You can do that. You can just move around. You can scroll up and down, of course. You can hold Control. You can scroll left and right. You can. I think that's really all you need to know. Yeah, that's it. So, anyway, let's get right into it. So, you can go ahead and double click. I usually like to double click anywhere on the frame where there is not an object. And don't be intimidated by all these objects. The main objects that you're going to want are actives. Although they're certainly not the only objects that you'll want. They're some of the main ones. So it's going to come in looking like this. Actually, whenever you first boot up Clickteam, it's going to look like this. And you're just going to be like this. You're just going to press snap to grade up here, and it'll be able to snap anywhere that you want it to, and it's extremely useful if you're making like a tile-based platformer like this. So, now, we're going to go ahead and go to the manager, assuming that you've just started this. We're going to type in platform movement object, platform movement object. It should say install right here. So you just go ahead and install that. I've already done it, and you need an internet connection, by the way, but assuming that you're watching this video on YouTube, I think that you're gonna have internet connection. Oh yay, love it when it crashes. Okay, so it's gonna be a platform movement object. The icon should look just like this. So whenever you try and place it, it's going to come up with this menu. We're not going to worry about this for now. These are variables that we'll be able to change later. And you'll see that it doesn't actually show up in the frame. That's just because it's like a ghost sort of thing. It's just, since it's in the frame, you can yeah, you'll figure it out later. So here we're on the frame. So if we go up here and we click this button, we'll go to the event editor, which is where all the coding happens. This is where you tell everything what to do. So we can go ahead and say new condition. These are like if statements. If you ever know what if you've ever had any experience with if statements, you'll know what those are. So so what we're gonna have to go ahead and do is we're gonna go ahead and say start a frame. So whenever you first open up the game, like that. Also, I forgot one thing. We're gonna go back to the frame here by pressing this button, and then we're gonna go to this backdrop, this landscape looking thing. We're gonna put it here. And this may seem a little bit complicated, but I'll explain it to you later. So you're gonna double click on the art for it, and you're gonna go ahead and you have this whole editor thing. I just went and said clear up here. and you can just paint it any color that you want, do anything that you want with it. I'm gonna make it green because I like green. So now that we've got this, you're gonna go ahead and with your backdrop, you're gonna click on it. You're gonna go over to properties over here. You're gonna press runtime options, and under obstacle type, you're gonna put it under obstacle. So, and then you can, of course, if you double click on it, or if you click once and then click again, if you click again, you can have rotations. I don't use those very often. So you can just go ahead and scale it up, make it this big sort of platform. I'll scale it like that. I'm going to go ahead and name this player, and I'm going to make him a square just for safekeeping. And I will make him a different color. So here we go. We have our things. Sorry, just hit my table. We have our objects here. So we're going to go ahead and say, if you start a frame, you're going to set the object. So you notice that it doesn't move anything. Whenever the platform object, movement object, doesn't have influence over any of these objects. So we're going to go ahead and set the object to this red thing, our player. So if you run the frame right now, you'll notice that it just sort of falls through. It doesn't really do anything. So you're just going to say, you're going to go here. You're going to say collision testing, top of the event. You're going to say test for obstacle overlap. Okay. Then you're going to go ahead and right click it. You're going to say insert. So then you're going to say collisions on a backdrop. So backdrops, these things are backdrops. The one with the landscape that it originally had, those are backdrops. They cannot be seen, as you can see, they cannot be seen in the event editor. They are not listed there because they're supposed to be backgrounds, but they can also be used for collision and such. They're very useful for that. Mainly for if you're wanting them to be tiles. So this always has to be at the top of the event, or else it won't work. So that's just a note. So we can go here under the platform movement object. We can say collisions object does overlap with obstacle. There you go. So just making sure that you understand this. It's like it has to meet this criteria. It has to meet all of this criteria in order to execute whatever it says to do here. So we're gonna go ahead and say like if this is if the x is 0 and the y is 0, 1, then just I don't know, destroy. So since the x position is not 0 and the y position is not 1, it doesn't meet any of that criteria, so it's not going to destroy that. And since it doesn't meet one or the other, it could meet this one, and if it doesn't meet that one, then it won't go. Or vice versa. It has to meet both of them at once. So that wouldn't work. So here, this should work. We should have it now, so that it just sort of falls onto there. So that's perfect, but we can't move it around or anything. There's no way to move. So we have to say new condition. Go here, keyboard, repeat while key is pressed. So it's that. So this is essentially like do it over and over again. Execute this command over and over and over and over again while this key is pressed. So we're going to say on user input, we're going to say user is holding the right key. So if you're holding the right arrow, go right. So what that's going to look like is that's going to look like this. It's moving. Okay, it doesn't go left though, and you can't jump. So also I apologize for the lag. That's my computer is not really all that well equipped for this sort of thing. if you're holding the left key. So now you should be able to go left or right. So yeah, there you go. Now you can also make it so that if upon pressing the up key, so it's something that's only going to happen once. It's not going to repeat, it's just going to say upon pressing. So we're going to say jump. But now here's the problem. You can jump repeatedly. If you don't want to be able to jump repeatedly, and only make it so you can jump once while you're standing on the ground, then, you know, tell it just that. You're going to say insert, you're going to say object states, object is standing on ground, so it has to meet, press up arrow, it has to meet that criteria. It also has to meet standing on ground criteria. So like this. So I'm mashing the up button right now, it's not working. Black spikes galore. So there you go. That's the very basics. Here's what I like to do. First of all, I like to increase the jump strength to about 900. I like to set the X acceleration to 100, X deceleration to 100. I like to set the max X velocity to 300. That gives you a really nice sort of clean sort of platformer sort of feel to it. It doesn't have any momentum. If you wanted to do that, that's a little bit more advanced. If you wanted to like bring in some real physics to it, but, you know, you could do that, but that's just for the sake of this being a simple platformer. We're not going to do that. So what you can do is there are different things you can do. If you copy and paste, Control C, Control V, you can like, if you shorten one, the other is also shortened. Or you can clone an object, and if you shorten the cloned version, it does nothing. It's a fully separate object. So you got this and this. These are both the same object. So they will both behave the same way. So you got your things here, and you can fall down there, and you know. So you've got this. It's very basic. Now if you want to see something a little bit less basic than this, so yeah, this is the very basics of Clickteam. If you can understand, really fully understand how this works, then I think, you know, you'll be pretty good if you're trying to make games with this tool, which despite its look, like, despite it not being real coding, this tool is extremely powerful, and it's crazy what it can do. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to stay updated, because I'm going to post another tutorial very soon, building onto this, making it look a little bit more like Rabbit Season, if you've ever seen that. Adding like moving backgrounds with parallax scrolling, smooth camera, all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to teach you the basics the right way, because I was not taught the right way, and I had to teach myself most of it. So, thank you for using my tutorial, and I will see you very shortly.